I would have told you all the things I think about you every night.
This is Peter Clayton from Total Picture Radio. Joining me today is singer-songwriter Gregg Robbins. Gregg has just completed a new album titled Everything That Matters. In the liner notes, Gregg writes, "Everything that matters is a journey for me across the spectrum of human emotion and experience." While the songs vary musically, for me the common thread is the lyrics that I try to make honest, forthright, and hopeful. Gregg, thanks for joining me. Give us some backstory. What was your motivation and inspiration in creating Everything That Matters?
I've been a musician my whole life. From the age of 9, I played classical clarinet. I was very serious for a number of years. I've played then jazz saxophone for many years, improvising and enjoying that. And then at a certain point in my life, I started playing the guitar and started writing my own music. And that was really the calling, I guess, that I found. And I found that music was a wonderful way to express, the journey that we go through, at least that I go through.
Even when it is pain, it's wonderful to hear you.
Everything That Matters, which you mentioned, is the title of the album and the title track. It's a very personal song, but it really describes the album very nicely because it's an album that ranges from love to heartbreak to joy to the election of Barack Obama to our soldiers that are in Iraq and Afghanistan. And music became a wonderful outlet to express that. It's been an amazing journey.
If you are my angel.
Okay, so Gregg, how and where did this become an album?
When I moved back to Geneva, I started writing and recording some demo songs, and a number of people liked the music very much and encouraged me to think about doing an album. The idea of the album came up. We took a fresh look at it, and we decided to, when I say we, my partner in life and in music, Karen, we decided to try to do this. And once we began it, it sort of took a life of its own.
Again, Gregg, referencing the album liner notes, you worked with some amazing people on this album, some real legends in the music industry.
That's true. Both on the production side and some of the engineers. I've worked with some of the finest people in the world, both as human beings and as professionals. I had a litmus test with all the musicians because there's many great musicians out there that can play, but I needed to meet them personally, and I needed to ask them because they'd listen to the demos, and I needed to understand why they wanted to play my music. Ultimately, the greatest compliment to a songwriter or composer is to, in the end, hear the music that you heard in your head. Right? That's ultimately what you want and you strive for. And it's a very long journey to get to that point.
For you to work with some of the best professionals in the world, as you mentioned, to help you craft this album and then create relationships with all of these individuals must have been life-affirming for you to experience.
Like many things in life, when there's an end product, we somehow think that there's some sort of linear path to success, and you just go piece by piece. And in fact, it's not that at all. So this album, in that way, is sort of metaphorically like my life, and that there's ups and there's downs, and there were times when this project looked like it wouldn't happen. Again, there's no substitute for people liking what you do and believing in it. And that has motivated me tremendously. I had the privilege to be in Sterling Sound Studio in New York, which is a world leader in mastering albums. Gregg Kalby, who is the amazing person who worked with us, a mastering engineer, has mastered albums ranging from Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run to Paul Simon's Graceland to Bob Dylan's albums. We had an amazing interaction, as people, first and foremost, and then as musicians. And he really liked the music, and he had very constructive things to say. I can't tell you how much that meant to me and to Karen, living something you dreamed would happen, and it actually happens. But as with anything in life, whether you're working, looking for a job, trying to put your life in a certain way, you just have to persevere, and you have to understand you're going to have setbacks and keep going.
Gregg, let's talk about some of the songs on your album. Tell us about Pages of My Life.
Pages is a song about family. It's a song about the years going by and people leaving our lives. You know, when we grow up, we take a lot for granted. We're surrounded by family, both in terms of generations, and over time they leave. And at a certain point we realize that. And I realized it a little later in life, particularly when I saw my children growing up. It's got a very Russian sort of Jewish sound to it. On the album, it's actually the one track that is in Russian as well. We decided to do a bonus track in Russian. You know, I live in Moscow. I love Russian, what they call bard music. And so I really wanted to contribute this to that genre of music. But Pages, it's a melancholy song. It's a song a lot of people say makes them think a little bit about life and enjoying the people that are in our lives, because they're not with us forever.
It all just change as the pages of my life are rearranged.
One of my favorite songs on the album, and a song that really resonates with me, is called Memories and Yesterdays.
It's been a year gone by, so long, I wonder why.
Memories is, it's about missing people, and it's about how, again, similar to Pages, how our life moves on and how people sometimes slip out of our lives for a while and how we miss them, but how they continue to live with us and stay with us.
Gregg, one of the songs you spoke about in the first part of this interview is a track called Heroes.
Heroes is written for our soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the intention with this track to raise funds specifically for these people.
Many of us venture far.
In 2009, I was about to go to a place called Landstuhl, which is a medical facility in Germany, which is where soldiers tend to come back from Iraq and Afghanistan, injured soldiers on their way back to America. Some of them are very sick, some of them have lost limbs, and then as part of that, maybe the soldiers there would appreciate music, and so I offered to bring a guitar and an amp and play for them. And the response back was they would love that. And so when that became a reality, I decided I should write something for them specifically. And that was very difficult because I didn't know how to exactly relate to them. Firstly, I've never served in the military. I've had many friends who have. So what could you say, not coming from the perspective of having understood or understanding what they do? What essentially came to me was, that they should be honored, because whether we think the wars are just, right, unjust, whatever we think about the wars, certainly we should honor the soldiers who go there, who are sent there, and who try to defend our freedoms.
One of the most personal and I think profound tracks on this album is called So Many Ways.
So many ways to say I'm sorry, but I can't find the words. I wish that I could make it better. God, I know this hurts.
It's trying to express in music what is difficult to express in life, in essence. And it's a very tender, a very personal track, which, the pianist is a wonderful person. I should mention him, Bart Berzanski. He conducts the orchestra in Darmstadt in Germany. He worked with me and prepared the string arrangements for this album. And it's one of the tracks where I play saxophone.
And if you would only listen, well, I would try to hear. It's morning in America.
You and Karen were fortunate to attend the inauguration of Barack Obama, and you wrote a song called Morning in America.
We're off on our way. Morning in
On the eve of the election in 2008, I was very moved by Barack Obama and by what he represented and what he represented in terms of him as a person, just in terms of where America could go. And I remember sitting in my living room in Geneva. Karen was busy working on his campaign in Florida. And, you know, it really, for me, was a very moving thing. I felt very proud to be American. I felt very inspired to be American. And I picked up my guitar and I wrote this song on that Sunday. It was put on YouTube. We had a few thousand hits. Thanks to Karen and her involvement in the campaign, and we were invited to the inauguration and to a couple of balls. And at the staff ball, we had about 10,000 people there, and the demo CD was put on later in the evening and played over the loudspeakers.
Just reach out your hand.
One of the songs that I think a number of the people who are listeners of Total Picture Radio and are in the business world will really respond to is a track called Goodbye and Hello.
And in these moments that pass us by, there's something you should know.
It's a very sweet song, and it's a song that came to me because I, like many of your listeners, have been traveling around the world doing business, spending time, far too much time in many cases, in hotels, in airport lounges. And it's a song about really what's important. And what's important is, you know, the people in our lives that are close to us and we care about, and in particular our children. You know, there's a lot of different parts in the song that I think will be familiar to people that have been on the road.
For while it's hard every time,
Tell us about Walk Away.
It's a song about the people in our lives that can be difficult. You know, we spend a lot of time in life dealing with people that are not always the easiest to work with or to interact with, and we somehow convince ourselves we can change them, and we can't. You know, the message of this song is, you know, you can never change them, but you can sure walk away.
How they complicate our lives.
Gregg, one last question. How many countries and continents were involved in the making of this album?
4 countries in the end. You know, the album started in Geneva. We recorded the strings in Germany. We then recorded the last track on the Old Arbat, which is the most famous street in Moscow, in a lovely theater which has a great studio in it. And then, of course, where we are now, which is New York, to come to Sterling Sound and finish the album. And you know, it's really remarkable to do this across 4 countries all over the world and wind up in Sterling Sound with Gregg, who's also from the Bronx, like me, and you know, not far away actually, and to finish the album that way, it's just, what a journey, incredible.
You can learn more about Gregg and listen to much of his music on his website, greggrobbins.com. That's Gregg with 2 G's and Robbins with 1 B, GREGGROBINS.com. Everything That Matters is Gregg's first album, executive produced by Gregg and Karen Olson. The album is dedicated to Gregg's 3 beautiful daughters, Gabriella, Casey Brooke, and Raquel.
Either way, we often lose.